Greg and Callie no longer recognized each other after 15 years of marriage. It seemed they had lost themselves in time. The growing distance between them fueled a series of arguments until one of these disputes went too far. Is there still hope to save the marriage, or will this conflict mark the definitive end of their relationship? Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Callie and Greg were the perfect portrait of a middle-aged couple, both in their 40s, with 15 years of marriage and 3 children. They lived in a comfortable house in a quiet suburban neighbourhood. In the beginning, they were the perfect couple, full of dreams and plans for the future. But as the years went by, routine and responsibilities slowly eroded that young and passionate love. Callie, once a lively and ambitious woman, now found herself trapped in a domestic routine that suffocated her. She had abandoned her promising career as a graphic designer to fully dedicate herself to raising their children. Her hair, which was always well-groomed before, now stayed tied up in a careless ponytail. Fashionable clothes were replaced by oversized t-shirts and sweatpants. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman she once was. Greg, on the other hand, was a hard-working man, dedicated to his family, but equally frustrated with the direction his life had taken. He spent long hours at the office, working as an accountant for a large company. The stress of work and the lack of time to take care of himself had taken a toll. His belly was bigger, his hair was thinning, and dark circles were a constant feature on his tired face. Their house, once a cosy home, now seemed like a battlefield. Toys scattered across the living room, dishes piled up in the kitchen sink, and an endless list of repairs to be done. The garden, which used to be Greg's pride, was now neglected, with overgrown grass and wilted flowers. The arguments between the couple had become more frequent. They quarrelled about overdue bills, about the children's education, about the lack of time for their relationship. The love that once united them seemed to have been lost amidst daily frustrations and exhaustion. On one particularly tense night after the children had gone to bed, a more heated argument began. Callie, exhausted and frustrated, unloaded all her complaints on Greg. "You don't understand, Greg. The budget is at its limit. The washing machine broke down and we don't have money for a new one. The kids need new clothes, and did you see their grades at school? They're falling. And that grass you promised to cut weeks ago? And the cabinet door that's been broken for 6 months? 6 months, Greg?" Callie spoke, her voice rising with each sentence. "I quit my job to take care of this family, and look where we are. You aren't even romantic with me anymore. Do you remember the last time you brought me flowers? I don't." Greg, feeling attacked, retaliated with his own frustrations. "You think it's easy for me, Callie? You have no idea what I go through at work every day to keep this house afloat. I come home exhausted, and all you do is criticize me and load me up with chores for my days off. When was the last time you supported me in something? When was the last time you praised me for something I did?" The argument grew increasingly heated, their voices rising. In a moment of anger, Callie grabbed a box from the wardrobe and threw it on the floor, its contents scattering. "You were my biggest mistake, Greg. You should never have come into my life." The ensuing silence was deafening. That's when they realized they were no longer alone. Standing at the bedroom door were their 3 children, watching the scene with frightened eyes. Without saying a word, Greg grabbed his car keys and left the house, slamming the door behind him. Callie, realizing how much the situation had spiraled out of control, felt a wave of regret wash over her. She turned to the children, trying to maintain her composure. "It's okay, dears. Please go back to bed." The eldest daughter, with maturity beyond her years, understood the situation and led her siblings back to their room. Alone, Callie looked at the mess she had made. The box she had thrown on the floor was an old keepsake box that the couple had been preserving for years. She knelt down and began to gather the scattered items, each object bringing back memories she had not revisited in a long time. The first thing she picked up was an old photo, yellowed with time. In it, Callie and Greg were smiling, hugging in front of a waterfall. She remembered that trip, the first they took together when they were just two young lovers, full of dreams and plans for the future. The waterfall roared in the background, but all they could hear was each other's heartbeat. Next, she found a bundle of letters tied with a faded red ribbon. They were the love letters they exchanged during the early years of their relationship, when Greg had to move temporarily to another city for work. Callie opened one of them, immediately recognizing Greg's handwriting. My dearest Callie, each day away from you feels like an eternity. I can't wait to come back home into your arms. You are the best thing that has ever happened in my life. I love you more than anything. Always yours, Greg. Tears began to stream down Callie's face as she read those words filled with love and longing. How had they reached this point? How had such a pure and intense love turned into so much hurt and resentment? Another object caught her attention, a small hospital bracelet. It was the bracelet she had worn when she gave birth to their first child. Callie remembered that day, the fear and excitement she had felt, and how Greg had been by her side the entire time, holding her hand, encouraging her, crying with happiness when they heard the baby's first cry. A broken shell made her smile through the tears. She remembered the trip to the beach they took when the kids were little. Greg had found that perfect shell and saved it for her, but on the way back to the hotel he tripped and the shell broke. He was so upset, but Callie kissed him and said that the broken shell was even more special because it represented their love. Not perfect, but unique and precious. While she picked up each object, each memory, Callie felt her heart fill with regret. How could she have said that Greg was her biggest mistake? He was the father of her children, her companion for so many years, the man who had stood by her side during the most important moments of her life. Suddenly, she heard the familiar sound of Greg's car pulling into the garage. Her heart raced. She wanted to run to him, ask for forgiveness, tell him she loved him. Callie quickly stood up, placing the box back in the wardrobe, and ran to the front door. When Greg walked in, Callie was about to speak, but the words died in her mouth. Greg was standing at the door, holding a bouquet of flowers. They weren't expensive or elaborate flowers. They looked hastily bought from some convenience store open overnight. But to Callie, at that moment, they were the most beautiful flowers she had ever seen. I'm sorry, they both said at the same time, and then they smiled, a shy smile full of hope. Greg took a step forward, handing the flowers to Callie. I know I haven't been the husband you deserve. I let work and stress take over, and I forgot to value you and our family. Will you forgive me? Callie took the flowers, feeling their soft fragrance. Oh, Greg, I'm the one who should be asking for forgiveness. I never should have said those awful things. You are not a mistake. You are the best thing that has ever happened in my life. She placed the flowers on the table and hugged her husband tightly, feeling the familiar warmth of his body, the scent she knew so well. They stayed like that for a long time, just hugging, feeling each other's heartbeats. When they finally separated, both had tears in their eyes but also smiles on their faces. We need to talk, Greg said softly, about everything. Callie nodded in agreement. Yes, we do, but for now, let's sleep. Tomorrow will be a new day. The next morning, after a restorative night's sleep, Callie and Greg gathered the children in the living room. The kids looked apprehensive, still remembering the argument from the previous night. Greg was the first to speak. Kids, your mother and I want to apologise for what happened last night. It wasn't right for us to fight that way, especially in front of you. Callie continued, We love you more than anything in the world, and we love each other too. Sometimes adults make mistakes, but the important thing is to acknowledge those mistakes and try to fix them. The children looked at their parents, their faces softening. The eldest daughter was the first to stand up and embrace them both. It's okay, Mom and Dad. We understand. That family hug was the first step on a journey of reconnection and renewal. In the days and weeks that followed, Callie and Greg made a conscious effort to improve their relationship and family dynamics. They began setting aside time just for themselves twice a week. Sometimes it was simply a coffee after the kids had gone to bed. Other times it was a dinner out. They relearned how to talk, to laugh together, to appreciate each other's company. Greg started putting more effort in at home. He finally mowed the lawn, transforming it back into the beautiful space it used to be. Together, they painted the house, breathing new life into the home they had built together. Callie, in turn, decided to take up some of her old hobbies again. She enrolled in an online painting course, something she had always wanted to do but never found the time for. Greg encouraged her, proud to see his wife rediscovering her passion. Small acts of kindness became part of their daily routine once again. Greg started leaving love notes for Callie to find around the house. Callie began preparing Greg's favourite breakfast on Sunday mornings. These were simple gestures, but they made all the difference. They also started taking better care of themselves. Greg signed up at the local gym and Callie started doing yoga at home. It wasn't just about appearance, but about feeling good about themselves and each other. The children noticed the change. The atmosphere at home became lighter, more joyful. Family dinners, which had previously been silent and tense, were now filled with conversation and laughter. On weekends, they began doing activities together: picnics in the park, home movie nights, board games. One day, about 3 months after that fateful night, Callie and Greg were sitting on the porch swing, watching the sunset. The children were playing in the yard, their laughter filling the evening air. Callie looked at Greg, noticing the small wrinkles around his eyes and the grey streaks at his temples. She smiled, feeling her heart fill with love. "Greg," she said softly, "you were the best decision of my life." Greg looked at her, surprised and moved. He took her hand, intertwining their fingers. "And you were mine, Callie, always have been and always will be." They kissed, a sweet kiss filled with promises for the future. As the sun set on the horizon, Callie and Greg knew they had rediscovered something precious. The love that united them in the beginning, now stronger and deeper, seasoned by the years and shared experiences. That night of argument had been a turning point in their lives. It made them realize how close they were to losing something precious, and it motivated them to fight for their marriage, their family, their love. The lesson they learned was clear. Recognizing one's own mistakes, remembering the good moments, and fighting for the marriage is worth it. Love, like life, has its ups and downs, but with effort, understanding, and dedication, it is possible to overcome the difficult moments and build something even more beautiful and lasting. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.